What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to our play-in coverage. This next game that we're going to talk about is probably the game I'm most looking forward to in the play-in. These two teams are just like extremely combative and competitive, and I'm really looking forward to talking about this one. Quick shameless plug, make sure you guys subscribe, leave some comments. I've responded to every single comment on my YouTube channel ever, so make sure you leave one. I'd love to discuss basketball with you guys. But all right, let's talk about some stuff. So we got the Heat and the Sixers. Wow, two teams that very well could have avoided the play-in. Obviously, the Sixers were probably a top 4 seed before Embiid went down with the meniscus tear. He's back now. The Heat have been dealing with injuries pretty much all season. Terry Rozier was a kind of a late addition to the team via the trade deadline. This team's just looking a lot different than where it was before, and we all know the Miami Heat can just accelerate and just start destroying everybody at any possible second. But yeah, for those of you unfamiliar, I've kind of been building these sheets to help kind of demonstrate my ideas. I don't want to just have my face on screen and just talking to you guys. I feel like that's kind of boring, so I build these really basic looking sheets just to help demonstrate kind of what I'm talking about on here. So let me know if you guys like these or not. But anyway, let's talk about this stuff here. So we're gonna talk about first like coverages and matchups and things like that, and I draw out 8 people for both of these teams because usually in the playoffs rotations usually don't go beyond like 8 people. As you go further in the playoffs, it's more so like 7. You might see 9 guys get on the court, but that's more so a guy trying to give a guy a little bit of a breather before a half or something like that. But in this case, I actually think that might not be true. I think these teams might play more of a 9-man rotation in this game. Like, you guys can all see who I have on here right now, but I'm willing to bet Haywood Highsmith gets into the game as well for the Miami Heat and probably plays some pretty decent minutes. And I'm willing to bet for the Sixers that if DeAnthony Melton is healthy, that he'll also be on the court. Depends on what kind of shape he's in and everything. He might honestly even play over Nick Batum if he's feeling good, but just throwing that stuff out there for context. Let's start from the top, though. Joel Embiid versus Bam Adebayo. This will be interesting. So obviously, Joel Embiid, not very mobile at the moment. So if the Heat can get themselves into their normal kind of like Bam is a hub, he's running through, not he's running through, but he's working as like the handoff person that he used to be a couple of years ago. I think that could be really valuable for them because I don't see Embiid like really moving back and forth between the paint and outside near the nail, which is the free throw line for those of you guys that don't know. And I just don't see him being able to be too impactful in that sense. So I think that's a way to take him away from the rim, which is going to be crucial, right? I mean, Joel Embiid's an absolute monster around there. As far as like how Bam can guard Joel, I mean, like I said, Joel can obviously just bully him whenever he wants. I don't think he's necessarily going to do that, at least in how he's been playing so far, because he's still getting into game shape. He's been mostly operating out of that mid-range, which should bode well for Bam. Bam can get up and contest. He's quick. Obviously, Bam's a great defender. So I actually think that like the Heat have somewhat of an advantage that they can play to in that matchup, and it should be able to open up the rest of their like shooters. I think we'll probably see a lot of switching between the 3s and 4s at the very least. Honestly, you might see Caleb Martin guard Kelly Oubre just because he's a little more mobile, and you can let Jimmy kind of be more of a help defender then because he'll be on Tobias. So that's probably where I envision that matchup going, but I'll be curious to see what they actually do game time-wise. But obviously, 2 nice floor spacers here, guys that can attack closeouts, primarily Oubre. Tobias can do it, though, as well, because he's big and strong and all that, and he's just been having a really solid season this year. So he's going to be probably, I assume, working like opposite wing of wherever Embiid is to have adequate floor spacing and everything, and maybe they put Oubre there at points that he can kind of hit that rip cut at points, but I'll be curious to see kind of how they match these dudes up with them. As far as like how they can guard like Caleb Martin like really viciously attacks closeouts, so you're going to need a more we'll say versatile defender on him, so Kelly Oubre is going to have to really like watch his closeouts. And then with Jimmy Butler, we don't always know what we're going to get out of Jimmy, right? Because Jimmy very much could go off for 50 points because he could be super aggressive, or he could be just kind of letting his teammates play, and he's just kind of a glue guy for them. So I'll be curious to see what Jimmy we get. I'd be inclined to believe that going up against the Sixers, that he's going to try to take over a little bit, at least towards the end of the game. Maybe at the beginning, he's letting guys like Hero and Rozier kind of get going, but I just feel like come end of the game, you're going to need a closer on him, and that's where I feel like Tobias Harris might be a little better to guard him so that he can kind of muscle him up a little bit more. So that's kind of what I'm seeing is like that's going to be a key for Miami, right? Is Butler going to be able to really close things, and is that going to be his mentality? I just feel like against Philly, that just seems like a team that he's going to want to do that too. Hero versus Hield, that'll be an interesting one. Tyler's been doing a really good job of like getting to the hoop and finishing really high off the glass as of late. Like that shot's really been falling for him. Buddy Hield doesn't exactly have a ton of vertical presence or anything like that, so I think Hero's going to have an advantage if he wants to take him to the rim. And obviously Buddy Hield's not really going to contest his shot all that intensely. And, you know, same with Hield though. Like Hero's not always the best at navigating screens and pin downs when because Hield is a master of coming off of those, and he gets his shot off so quick that it doesn't matter. So these guys floor spacing, it's going to be a battle of like who can generate the more like third touch kind of offense for their teams. But I'd like to give Tyler Hero probably the edge on this. I'm a huge Buddy Hield guy, but Tyler's been doing such a good job of like I said, putting the ball on the ground as of late. And I just, especially if they can get him coming around the handoff action with Bam out here, and then he can get going towards the hoop, and that pulls Embiid back out, and then maybe you kick it back out and you're in like some Spain action or something like that. Someone like a Caleb Martin is that extra screener, and he can get an open three off of that. I just, that offense seems to make so much sense for taking down Philly. This is going to be the tough one now, though. Tyrese Maxey versus Terry Rozier. Obviously, Terry Rozier, nice bucket getter and everything, plays with or without the basketball. Great fit on Miami. He's been a nice addition to the team. Tyrese Maxey is an all-star level talent. Obviously, he made the team this year and everything. Elite player. He can go absolutely nuclear at any point. So, like, where are they going to be running their offense through if they're Philly? Is it going to be like a Maxey Embiid pick and roll type thing? Are we giving it to Embiid in kind of that mid-post area and letting him operate a little bit more because maybe he's not feeling too mobile? But it's going to be interesting to see, because my inclination would be is that they want to run things through Maxey as much as possible, because I feel like if he gets going, that's the best chance of them having sustained like consistency throughout the game. Because guys like Terry Rozier and Patty Mills are going to be on him, like, don't be surprised if they put a Haywood Highsmith on him at some point and try to lock him down. But I just feel like Tyrese Maxey's kind of who you have to run the team through in a game like this. Comparing the benches, like I said, I feel like both of these teams have a little bit more trust in some of their bench than maybe some other teams going into the playoffs. Like, they're just a little more proven. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them go. Obviously, Duncan Robinson, Kevin Love, Patty Mills, those are going to be guys that you see on the court. Patty Mills has a ton of experience. He's been shooting great from three. Kevin Love, he's just going to be the backup big for them, hit some nice outlet passes, stroke some threes. I can't remember which game I was watching the other day, but he was just like willing a comeback in that game. And that's what he can do, right? We all forget Kevin Love was an all-NBA type player at one point, and, you know, he gets hot from three and just puts it all into these couple play-in games and playoff games. He could be really valuable. Duncan Robinson can get hot in any moment, and that's pretty much what his game is, right? He is a really good cutter as well, so that's another reason to have Bam working outside the paint and being a facilitator to keep Embiid out of the paint. So it's just something to observe there. And then, like I said, I think Haywood Highsmith will probably find his way on the court as well. Maybe even Jaime Jaquez. Like, Jaime's obviously a great player as well, and so that's kind of the thing, right? Like, where do you find time for all these guys? And that's the thing with the playoffs, man. Somebody's got to sit. Then looking at the Sixers, obviously Kyle Lowry, he's going to do his thing going against his old team, right? You know he's going to be motivated to go get some buckets. B-Ball Paul is going out there to be a nice backup big to go against a Kevin Love. That's going to be a battle of rebounding right there, because Kevin Love's still a very strong rebounder. B-Ball Paul's a very aggressive offensive rebounder. Could have some interesting box out battles there. Nick Batum's just going to be a floor spacer, but like I said, his minutes might be taken up by a DeAnthony Melton if he's healthy. So we'll see how much he can go in that game. I know Nick Nurse wasn't talking too much about like his availability. This is also just going to be a really cool like coaching matchup too. Obviously Spo and then Nick Nurse, that's just two really smart basketball minds that are very used to like I have a counter for this. I have a counter for this. All right, now I'm going to counter you. This is going to be very much a chess battle, and that's part of the reason why I'm looking forward to this game so much. But obviously, these are just two scrappy teams as well and scrappy fan bases, and it's just such a fun matchup. So between like the coaches going at it, like I'm sure Embiid and Bam are going to be going at it. Jimmy's going to probably try and get under Kelly Oubre's skin at some point. Like maybe Tyler Hero does some shenanigans. Like Maxey's going to talk some shit. I'm very much looking forward to this matchup. If we take a look at the comparison between these two teams, they split the season series this year. Miami won the first two, it looks like, in the year. Yeah, and Philly actually won the last two, interestingly enough. And if we take a look at like who's played well, Maxey's played well every time that they've played him. That makes sense, right? They don't always have elite point guard defensive play, and the Heat really still don't. So that's why I say I think it just makes more sense to run things through Maxey in this game, because I just think he's got a better chance to sustain whatever offense that he finds. It looks like Bam's also had some pretty good games against Philly this year, and again, that's probably because Embiid was out at that point, so yeah, he would cook B-Ball Paul for the most part. But what are we going to do when Embiid's out there? I really do think that they need to work him out from the free throw line extended, pull Embiid out of the paint. If they sink him back down, then Bam can go to work against whoever he's got, right? That's just basketball, right? Playing to the counters. Otherwise, you see a lot of similarities between these two teams. Philadelphia scores more points than the Miami Heat. Miami like to play a little bit slower than Philadelphia, right? So that's going to be something. You see a lot more blocks, steals, things like that from Philly. Not a big surprise there, but pretty equal in terms of like 3-point percentage. So it'll be interesting, right? Like that's the thing with basketball nowadays, right? Someone like Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson just really gets hot. That could be the difference maker, and the Heat probably have more guys that are prone to just like spark and ignite. Another guy I wanted to touch on for the Heat as well. They just have so many dudes. Like Nikola Jovic has been playing very solid for them as well. 13 points a game. He's been hitting the three ball. Like he can go off the dribble a little bit. He's a nice young player for them. Maybe he gets some minutes, because I know Kevin Love is like potentially injured for this game. I have to imagine he's going to play, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. They have so many dudes on this team that they could throw out, and it could be a difference maker. Like DeLon Wright is a very solid basketball player, right? Like I said, Jaime Jaquez is someone like Thomas Bryant. Like you could throw him in the game. He's played NBA minutes before. I'm pretty positive Thomas Bryant won't get in the game, but you know what I'm saying, right? And at least in the last like 7 games, it's mostly been Hero. He's been really going off as of late. Jimmy's been doing his thing. Bam's been doing his thing. Terry Rozier's been like really hitting it from 3. Like I said, they're hot from 3 right now, and that could prove to be such a difference. And then as far as the Sixers go, we're just going to use a 5-game stretch, because that's as long as like Joel has been like available for the most part. So obviously Embiid absolutely killing it. How do they stop him? I think Bam has a decent chance to match up well against him. What does that mean? Maybe holding him to like 25, 26 points or something like that. But how do they guard Maxey, right? Is this something where, like I said, a Haywood Highsmith has to play more minutes or something? Or maybe they put Jimmy Butler on him and they're like, okay, maybe offensively we're going to give the load to like Rozier, Hero, etc., right, and figure it out from there. But I'll be curious. Kelly Oubre not hitting his threes as of late, not probably a huge deal. Tobias Harris is hitting. The Buddy Hield is always hitting. So, like, again, who's going to go nuclear? Who's going to really be that difference maker? I just think this game is going to be so interesting. But who do I think is going to win? I think I'm going to have to give it to Philly. I know I said that I think the Heat are just, I don't like picking against the Heat. That feels wrong. That doesn't feel right. But like the Sixers are so good when Embiid plays. Like they're so good. So I feel like if Embiid's on the court, they can win. I feel like that can happen. I feel like they don't have an answer for Tyrese Maxey. Like, at least not an obvious one. Like, because if Highsmith has to play, then you have an offensive deficiency that can help Philadelphia on defense, right? Like, there's not a great counter to Maxey, and I feel like he's going to go off. So, we'll see, right? We'll see. But I'm really looking forward to this game. You guys let me know in the comments who you think is going to win, and show some support. Hit subscribe or don't, I guess. That's your decision completely. But anyways, really looking forward to starting to watch these games tonight, y'all. Thanks so much.